This morning's talk is on the not-self characteristic, and I'm going to read from the Kulavadala Sutta, which is a sutta where one of the nuns in the Buddhist Sangha, Dhammadinna, teaches the understanding of not-self to her ex-husband, Visakha, who is also a member of the Sangha. It's a very interesting sutta, and that it covers the arising or how a perception of a permanent self comes to be, but also how very clearly and effectively the Eightfold Path is the path for ending that confusion and delusion rooted in wrong view. So I'll just read a little bit from the sutta. The Kulavadala Sutta is a teaching presented by the nun Dhammadinna to her former husband, also a member of the Sangha. The Buddha praised Dhammadinna as one of the most knowledgeable nuns of the Sangha. This is another example of the importance of women in the early monastic tradition. Visakha, the questioner, is also well established in the Dhamma. Visakha is seeking clarity on Anatta and how Anatta continually establishes itself through clinging in all phenomena. Visakha asks Dhammadinna, what is self-identification as described by the Buddha? Dhammadinna answers, Visakha, the Buddha teaches that self-identification is established by clinging to form, by clinging to feeling, by clinging to perception, and by clinging to fabrications. And finally, by clinging to consciousness. And that consciousness that we're talking about is not some grand cosmic consciousness. It's simply an ongoing conditioned way of thinking that's rooted in ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. And then she goes on that these 5 clinging aggregates are the self-identification taught by the Buddha. So the 5 clinging aggregates of form, feeling, perceptions, mental fabrications, and ongoing consciousness is not something that's used to establish itself. It simply describes the ongoing process that individuals with a wrong view choose to use these 5 clinging aggregates as a way of proving a self to themselves. But they're all, each one of these aggregates can be looked at and seen clearly as simply impermanent phenomena that arises. Visakha continues, your answer is very helpful. What then is the origination of self-identification to form, feeling, perceptions, fabrications, and indeed in every thought? It is craving, Visakha, that brings continual establishment of anatta, not self, craving born of clinging accompanied by passion and by delight, craving for sensual pleasure, craving for continued establishment in this world and other realms. This is the origination of self-identification as taught by the Buddha. Visakha then asks, what then is the cessation of self-identification? The renunciation and remainderless fading away of that very craving born of clinging that originates the continual establishment of anatta. This is the cessation of self-identification as taught by the Buddha. So there's an ongoing process that we all must maintain if we're going to continue these wrong views that are prone to confusion and delusion and suffering. And that's rooted in the continual craving for the establishment of a self-referential ego self. And then once those views are formed, clinging to those views. And this is what the Buddha is referring to as clinging, excuse me. And it very clearly shows the inference of what emptiness really means as far as the Buddhist teaching. Emptiness is not some vague environment that we seek to acquire. Emptiness is simply a teaching that we should empty the world of our clinging, and we should empty ourselves of clinging to the world. Visakha continues, what then, dear lady, is the path or the practice leading to the cessation of self-identification as taught by the Buddha? Dhammadinna says, friend Visakha, it is precisely the noble eightfold path of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation that the Buddha teaches to develop the virtue, the concentration, and the wisdom required to abandon self-identification and to abandon clinging. Then Visakha asks an important question. Is clinging the same as the 5 clinging aggregates? Clinging is not the same as the 5 clinging aggregates, Visakha, nor is it separate. It is the nature of the 5 clinging aggregates to cling. It is a function of the 5 clinging aggregates to cling. It is a nature of anatta to cling. It is a function of anatta to cling. So the Dhammadinna is making the point that it is an ongoing process of clinging that establishes the 5 clinging aggregates, and in themselves they are an ongoing process. So you can't point to a permanent establishment, excuse me, of the 5 clinging aggregates in any way. It's simply to recognize that due to craving and clinging, we continue the establishment of 5 clinging aggregates. Another way of saying it is we continue to establish a self that is truly not a self. When the Buddha taught Anatta, he was simply using that word to say and remind us that what we think of ourselves is not a self. Let go of those views. Visakha asks, so how does self-identification develop? Those uninstructed in regard to the Dhamma, run-of-the-mill people, with no regard for noble ones or those of integrity, are deluded. They believe that form to be self, or that the self possesses the form. They are further deluded to believe that their self-referential feelings are the self, and that their perceptions of self defines the self. That their fabrications that further establish the self to be the self. They assume that their self-referential thoughts establish the self. Each of these 5 clinging aggregates are impermanent and arise from ignorance. They are anatta. They are not a self. Visakha asks, so how does self-identification not develop? Those well instructed in regard to the Dhamma, with regard for the noble ones and those with integrity, well disciplined in their practice, do not believe, excuse me, do not believe form to be the self. They do not believe that feelings establish or define a self, or that perception defines a self. They are free of mental fabrications having no foundation for those fabrications. They do not assume that thoughts establish a self or that the self possesses thoughts. They do not assume that consciousness is the self or that the self possesses consciousness. There is no self attached to any of these 5 clinging aggregates. Visakha then inquires if the qualities of virtue, concentration, and wisdom are developed through the Eightfold Path, or do these 3 qualities inspire the Eightfold Path? Visakha, the Eightfold Path is inspired by the qualities of virtue, concentration, and wisdom. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood inspire the development of heightened virtue. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation inspire the development of heightened concentration. And right view and right intention inspire and develop heightened wisdom. Excuse me. Visakha then asks, what is concentration and what is the framework for right concentration? What are the requisites and how is it developed? Samadhi, non-distraction, is concentration. The framework for right concentration is the 4 foundations of mindfulness: being mindful of the breath in the body, being mindful of feelings arising and fading away, being mindful of thoughts occurring and fading away, and being mindful of the present quality of mind. Right effort provides the requisites for right concentration. You should always endeavor with skillful desire and persistence for the non-arising of unskillful qualities and to abandon unskillful qualities that have yet arisen. That's an important point. And Visakha, always endeavor with great desire and persistence to generate skillful qualities that have yet arisen and to maintain skillful qualities that have arisen. So that's about halfway through the sutta, the Kulavadala Sutta, and it's on my website. The Dhammadinna is teaching Visakha, her ex-husband, the very clear and direct path leading to the cessation of self, having once described how that self is formed. And it's the Eightfold Path develops that right view so that we can see when we're continuing in eye-making moment by moment. And the concentration that's rooted in Shamatha Vipassana meditation allows for that refined mindfulness, to see this continual establishment of self, to see the continual craving for existence and clinging to those establishments of these existential views in order to maintain that. Once we can recognize that, then we can start unraveling that ongoing process. So I see that someone has joined. Tracy, you're here. Do you have the ability to come on screen? Or do you have any questions you'd like to type in? I'm glad you could join. If at any point you want to ask a question, please feel free to do so. I'm so glad you could join me today in our online Sangha. So that's the talk for today on the not self characteristic. So let's meditate, and we'll meditate for 20 minutes. And again, Tracy, if you're able to interact with me and you want to come on screen after our meditation, I'll give you another opportunity. So let's meditate. So find your relaxed meditative posture. And gently close your eyes and gently close your mouths. And holding your back straight, but not stiff. Your ears aligned with your shoulders, nose aligned with your navel. And holding yourself very loosely, very gently, very lovingly. Allow yourself to settle into your room, wherever you are. Settle onto your seat. Settle into your body and settle into your mind. And take a moment to become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. Just get a feel for what that's like. To be mindful of your breath in your body. And while remaining mindful of your breath in your body, notice that thoughts are flowing. We're conscious beings, thoughts should be flowing. The purpose of shamatha vipassana meditation is to not be distracted by our own thoughts. So when you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. I'll repeat that. When you find that you're caught up in your thinking again, simply acknowledge that and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 20 minutes with callbacks every 5. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. Relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. relaxing thoughts, remaining mindful of our breathing. If a persistent thought or feeling arises, stay with it for a moment or two, recognize it as impermanent, and return your mindfulness to the sensation of breathing. And we'll meditate for 5 more minutes. Take a moment to notice the quality of your mind. Be at peace with your mind. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. So Tracy, it was so nice to meditate with you today. I'm wondering if the reason why you haven't joined me on screen is there's something I need to do. So I'm going to invite you on the screen if you can and you want to. Please do so. It'd be nice to talk to you. I'm getting used to this technology. I'm not quite sure how all of it works. So if you'd like to, just say yes and you'll be on the screen with me. It's okay if you don't want to. Well, okay, I see how that, I think I see how that works out. Tracy, thank you so much for joining me today. Please stay in touch. Send me an email or give me a call at any time. I'd love to talk to you. Thank you for joining me on screen. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I just didn't know how to do it.
Ah, okay. Well, so what? Again, I'm getting used to this myself. What did you have to do to get on screen?
Well, the screen came up and I saw myself, and I was trying to talk to you, but it wasn't working, and so I just clicked on the camera above the. I just clicked on that camera.
Oh, great!
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah. Thank you for meditating with me today. That was wonderful.
Well, thank you, and it was great for me.
Yeah, the technology is amazing. I was just thinking that I'm meditating with you 3/4 of the way across the country in real time. It's just great. What did you think of today's teaching? I know you've been through it before.
I have actually spent a lot of time reflecting on Anatta, and am actually starting to experience it as just conditions.
Yes.
So if a thought of my form comes up or a feeling arises, I'm able to see it's a condition without getting all caught up in whatever I'm feeling or perception that arises. So that's a really nice place to be right now.
Yeah, that's great insight. I mean, that you're really getting to the heart of the matter. And the ultimate condition is ignorance.
Yes.
And so the whole process that you're involved in and that I teach and that the Buddha taught is gaining wisdom to end that ignorance and end the condition for ongoing confusion, delusion, and suffering. It's pretty clear, isn't it, when you get down to it?
It is clear, and it makes me realize how much ignorance we've been conditioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so vast, and it's from a time we were very, very small.
Yes.
And ancestral stuff, I think that comes into play also.
Oh, absolutely. The continuation, and you're touching a little bit on the idea of rebirth, but there's a continuation that's necessary. In other words, we need to continue ignorance to continue this ongoing process. And when you start looking at that, it traces back to limitless time in the past. In other words, you can't find the beginning of it. We know that. But it's also this ongoing process, and it certainly is ancestral. So yeah. Great insight.
Yeah, and it also ties back into, I can't remember the name of the sutta, but the one that says the 5 things that you should hold in mind every day.
Yes. I can't think of it either offhand.
Impermanence and karma.
Yep.
I reflect on those every day.
Yeah.
Reflect on them every day ties back into conditions that create our ignorance that really helps open up my experience of right view and right intention every morning after my meditation.
Isn't that incredible?
It is incredible.
You're describing the refined mindfulness that's developed through the Eightfold Path. You see things clearly. You see things as they are. It's
taken a while, but it's like everything's just starting to come together organically like it's supposed to when you maintain a consistent practice.
Yes, yes.
That's been very, very key for me. I will not miss my practice.
And for anyone that is going to fully develop the path, it's consistency.
Yes.
And it really doesn't take, I mean, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but it really doesn't take a lot of effort. No. It just takes that consistent effort.
Right.
In other words, it's not that hard, except we have to be willing to face all these views that we've acquired and let go of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this is wonderful. This is what I was hoping would take place.
Yeah, this is great.
With this online song guide. I didn't quite get the technology. So you didn't have a way of joining me on screen until I invited you on screen. Is that right?
Right. I didn't know. I didn't know what button to push. I didn't know until you brought up the invitation, and then I pushed yes. Then my picture came up, and my mic was working, but you couldn't hear me or see me. Okay. So until I pushed the camera icon
on the top of the screen, yeah,
on the top of the screen, then it sort of did this.
Okay, well, so we're getting used to it, and you know,
yeah,
it's great to be able to join with you, and hopefully more people will join. I know we've had 5 or 6 people the last 2 weeks, but you're the only one this week, so I hope you're not getting frustrated with the technology before I learn how to use it completely.
Yeah, well, even last week I tried to come on screen and I was fumbling and I didn't know how to do it. So this is great. Yep. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. I hope you can join next week.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I will. Let's finish with metta. We'll finish with the Buddha's words on metta. I'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see how I do that. Okay, I'll just leave you on screen for this if that's okay. So if you want to gently close your eyes and gently close your mouth, and again, become aware of the sensation of breathing in your body. And let that mindfulness of your breath cease any distracting thoughts to the past or to the future, or that may have arisen from our talk today. And these are the Buddha's words on metta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited. Humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you, Tracy, for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. Peace.